Here comes the hardcore press. Weapons of mass distraction. So if Netflix isn't enough, if the TV shows aren't enough, if the mainstream media news isn't enough, there's the food system too, dumbing everybody down, making them unhealthy, begging their body bags for these frequencies, these Netflix, these TV shows. Unfortunately, when all else fails, they take you to war. We know that's coming, right? Probably in the next week. You saw Bibi Netanyahu go to the White House last week to dictate what's going on. And then, 1 week of, well, give us 1 week. I'll turn it around. Okay, but if you don't turn it around, you got to go into Iran. Now, there was a couple of correlations here. I thought we would do a little story time here in this, my second scariest book I've ever read. First being The Creature from Jekyll Island, of course. But this one, I'd like to see in the comment section if you can guess this country. Free education. Students were paid the average salary for which subject they were studying. Imagine that. Imagine you go into university, become a doctor, and they pay you a doctor's salary. Students studying overseas were provided with accommodations, an automobile, and $2,500 per year. That's in this country's currency. Free electricity, free healthcare, free housing. There were no mortgages, so maybe the loan was interest free. Maybe it's a little gray there. Newlywed couples received a gift of $60,000. Not going to say the currency. $50,000 from the government. Automobiles were sold at factory cost, free of interest. Private loans were provided free of interest. No interest on private loans. Bread cost 15 US cents per loaf. Gasoline cost 12 US cents per liter. So far, everybody's wrong. Portion of profits from sale of oil was paid directly into bank accounts of citizens. Farmers received free land, seeds, and animals. Full employment with those temporarily unemployed paid as full salary as if employed. That's almost like a pre-UBI of sorts. Oh, I'm showing the guy's picture here. Uh-oh. We'll keep going. So that was Libya. E-money, Fantasyland. That was Libya. Remember the boogeyman, Libya? Yeah. It was a state-owned bank. Right, so this book kind of runs through the history of state-owned banks and what happens to them. Of course, if you're a state-owned bank, you're off the Rothschild central banking system, right? That is a no-no. So Gaddafi's Jamahiriya, state of the masses, ensured that the wealth of this country of 5.79 million inhabitants was fairly distributed to all its people. Beggars and homeless vagrants did not exist. Life expectancy at 75 years was the highest in Africa and 10% above the world average. The literacy rate was 82%. Regarding human rights, Libya stood at 61 in the International Incarceration Index. The lower the rating, the lower the standing. The number one spot, you guessed it, United States. Another major achievement which Gaddafi initiated was the conversion of the Nubian sandstone fossil aquifer system into the Great Man-Made River Project, which supplied 6.5 million meters cubed of fresh water daily to the cities of Tripoli, Sirte, and Benghazi. The extracted water is 10 times cheaper than desalinated water. The total cost of the project, estimated at $25 billion, was financed without a single foreign loan. Friday. Although the central banks of Belarus, Burma, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, North Sudan, and Syria did not fall under the direct control of the Rothschild banking syndicate, Libya had the only central bank run on genuine state banking lines, which exhibited the classic symptoms of full employment, zero inflation, and a modern-day workers' paradise. The question arises as to why NATO intervened on the pretext of fabricated human rights abuses. The so-called responsibility to protect. Since 1971, when the United States abandoned the gold exchange standard for the petrodollar with the connivance of Saudi Arabia, any attempt to displace the United States dollar as the premier reserve currency has been blocked and opposed with violence. In November 2000, Saddam Hussein of Iraq decreed that all of the payments would in future be made in euros, as he did not wish to deal with, quote, the currency of the enemy. As he already had been proven the possession of weapons of mass destruction, pretext was a deliberately concocted hoax, and it was this currency decision which cost Saddam Hussein his life and the destruction of his country. In similar circumstances, Gaddafi announced in 2010 the creation of the gold dinar as a replacement for the settlement of all foreign transactions in a proposed region of over 200 million people. Libya at the time possessed 144 tons of gold. What was intended was not a return to the gold standard per se, but a new unit of account with oil exports and other resources being paid for in gold dinars. Gaddafi crossed the red line, paid the ultimate price. Since 2007, Iran... Is that Iran in the news these days? Yeah. Iran has stipulated that payments be made in euro currency. On February 17, 2008, the Iranian oil bourse for trading in petroleum, petrochemicals, and gas using primarily the euro, Iranian rial, and a basket of non-U.S. currencies was established. The first oil shipments under the new system were sold through this market in July 2011. This event must be deemed as one of the prime causes for the constant Israeli and American threats to annihilate Iran. When was this written? First edition, 2014. So this is 12 years old. Put this little bookmark back in here. So not only does it go, it's like this, this is one of those books that you read and you're like, no, it can't be. No. It goes into Japan, its state-owned bank, Italy, its state-owned bank, Germany, its state-owned bank. What are these all these things have in common? They all became boogeymen, and they had to be invaded, and then put on a Rothschild central banking. Of course, right? Like, that's okay. But you're like, really? Is this how everything is like? We've all heard they're all bankers' wars. Man, this book, pretty crazy. Turns out they all are. Every single one of them, even the Napoleon Bonapartean wars, that was a banker's war. He was a state-owned bank, and he had to fight him off for like, I don't know, decades. Then he lost. Even that one. Like, I can't remember. I don't know anything about the Napoleonic Wars, especially the root of it. I just never thought of it. I was just like old people's war. I didn't even, I don't even believe most history. I think it's all just written by the victors anyway. But it turns out he was defending a state-owned bank. Of course, they all prospered. Did you know North Dakota has a state-owned bank? Right down there in the good old states of America, North Dakota. And it has the highest increasing GDP of all the states. I wonder how they get away with that. Now, that was 2014. Maybe they've since come off that standard. But Michael Norris, that was the bull run, wasn't it, pianomattyb? Or you mean the 2025 stagnant price for 12 months? Yeah, I guess that's the bull run. When will states have their own Bitcoin reserve? Yeah, remember that? Remember every day there was that picture of the states and all the orange states? It kind of had its run, and then I remember making a video saying, what happened to all the states and their Bitcoin strategic reserve? Now, obviously, as stupid as they are, they're not that stupid to say they're creating one without having it. Then again, I mean, we're talking about political capital allocators, the worst of the worst, right? So what do they know? It's like, yeah, we should buy some Bitcoin. Well, let's first tell everyone we're going to, right? And then, of course, they don't. But that I wouldn't put it past them. But you don't hear about that anymore. You don't hear about that anymore. The old voice is rough from last night's gig. I'm a little worried because we have 2 gigs in a row. Something about our live event PA. It's hard on my voice. Plus, it was 3 hours. They just kept on. They're like, we're like a bunch of piano hooers. They throw $100. Can you play for 10 minutes? We're like, okay. And we'd play. And then another one. Another 10 minutes? Like, okay. What's 10 minutes? But at the end of 3 hours, 10 minutes is like, it's kind of like running a marathon. And someone said, can you run for 10 more minutes or something like that? Carl Elder just looked it up. North Dakota still has a state-owned bank. Says has returned $400 million in profits to the state over the past 2 decades. Yeah, like, so here's the thing. How majority of people here right now are American. How many of you knew that North Dakota had a state-owned bank? I didn't. I knew there was something weird about South Dakota because that was because of the DTCC book that I did the audiobook for. Depository Treasuries Trust Clearance Corporation, where they hold all, you'll own nothing and be happy. Well, they own everything, and in South Dakota, you can still physically custody your shares, so to speak. In South Dakota, that's why that has all these kind of foreign deep wealth pockets going into South Dakota. So North Dakota, South Dakota, something's happening. Something weird there, North Dakota state-owned bank, South Dakota, you can still custody your shares before it goes to the DTCC. And if you haven't listened to that one, it's in my page, my YouTube page somewhere. It has a life of its own. It's one of those. It's like, took forever, but it was like my sacrifice to the world. If they can sit through that book, it's not an easy digestible listen because it's got a lot of acronyms and whatnot. Malty Sig Dum Dum, a little late, but all is well in Wisconsin. How are you and where you live? Oh, I thought you were talking about South Dakota. Yeah, but how weird is that? That has anyone on this stream? Did anyone know that North Dakota had a state-owned bank? Michael Norris, Wisconsin and Michigan own Bitcoin ETFs. Well, I understand why they buy ETFs, because it's kind of like telling politicians to buy Bitcoin in self-custody. It's like telling a boomer, right? They're going to be like, I didn't hear one word of bank, right? And I don't. So outside of that, I'm out. Oh, you can buy an ETF through your financial advisor. Oh, yeah. Well, my guy Terry, he never lets me down. So I'm going to go with my guy. He's been getting me 11% returns for the past 30 years. Yeah. Well, you're underperforming inflation and debasement. What's that? Never mind. So you can see how this learning curve can take so long to absorb into the mind. Unfortunately, the learning curve won't outpace one funeral at a time. A lot of these boomers will die and give their money to their kids, and then you will see a fast influx. However, for it to grow the way we actually want it to grow, Bitcoin will have to make novel moves, which it's never done before, right? So my bullish delusion now when it comes to the Bitcoin price is that we are coming to a Christopher Nolan epoch of 4 cycles. And that's like, what do I know? But I think within 4 cycles, there's 16 years will become its own cycle. And then we will go into a new epoch with 4 more cycles. That being said, we can start doing some novel things. But at the Kager price that's going on with we won't see those. In order to get like the $1 million Bitcoin, the Kager would have to double, triple from here, and it only goes in half, right? Doesn't double, triple, never doubles or triples. It only goes in half. So we would have to. That would be a novel Bitcoin move. That some cycle doubles the Kager. Now it could happen if all these countries started buying Bitcoin, like actual Bitcoin, because we're still left to that old don't trust, verify thing when it comes to ETFs, right? It's like, do they hold it? Do they? They say they do, Uncle Larry Finkelsteinberg says that he does. And Brian Armstrong says, yeah, I'll vouch for Uncle Larry Finkelsteinberg. And they're like, okay, well, I guess they said it, right? So that's got to be true because they'll never lie, will they? They don't lie. They've never lie about numbers, right? They would never fraudulently manipulate the numbers, would they? Will they have? No. JP Morgan paid $1 billion in fines for spoofing the gold and silver markets? No, I don't believe it. Not my guy. Jimmy Dimon? No. He would never do such a thing. They are fully on board. They ran a bunch of money. They paid out all the Epstein victims. How could there be Epstein victims? There wasn't even Epstein crimes. He did nothing. He trafficked some people to nobody. So who are they paying this money out to? That's where they're lying. They're lying about who they're paying their money out to, because there are no victims, right? Or why are we still talking about this? We still talking about the Epstein file? That was my Leonardo DiCaprio moment. It's over. Once I saw that was my full, okay, we've made a huge mistake here. The Israeli government puppet Trump is in full capture. And Carl, the Dow is over 50K. What are you talking about? These kids. It's unbelievable that, when you think about outrage, you go back to like, what was the first kind of, where did they burn the cities down the first time? Or Minneapolis? Was that George Floyd? One grown man, right? And they burned the city down. Now you have hundreds, if not thousands, of the red line. The red line's kids, right? That's humanity's red line. You don't F with the kids, right? And then their motto is, oh, no, that's the only thing we F with. Like, oh, okay, so, I get it. So that comes out and nobody burns. Like, DC should be burning. It should be burning right now. Now, unpopular opinion. The psychological consensus of the boat's getting a little heavy. We've been on this side for a long time. We knew all this was happening. I mean, like, think about that. You, maybe some of your friends go to work knowing, if having the weight on your shoulders of knowing that these psychopaths are doing this and have done this. Most people don't know, or they don't want to believe, right? They're like, nah, yeah. They're eating them? Yeah, right. Like, yeah. So, like, there's two different types of people. People that can ingest it and carry on with life. And then the people that will just be, like, they have that switch. They're like, nope, I can't get there. I just can't believe it. But it's there. And it should be burning. That city should be burning. But they all, like, so the psychological consensus is getting a little heavy, right? So when that happens, to me, it makes me think that they're like, okay, well, let's just throw everything at it and get it. So, like, we'll just throw so much information that people will be exhausted. They'll get Epstein fatigue. But guess what? You're never going to fatigue people when it comes to their kids. Never. The Dow's at 50K. I don't care. Burn it. Burn it down. The NASDAQ's up, blah, 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 blah. Burn it down. We don't care. Nobody cares. Like, it's the red line. But because they've been doing, like, they have no red line when it comes to kids. Like, that's their delicacy, right? So they don't understand the rest of the population's red line. Chadwick, the Dow is 50,000 because of it. Did you hear her almost say dollars? Right? She's like, the Dow's at 50,000. I thought you were a good trader. Right? She almost said dollars just to point out how stupid it is, how stupid she is. Because it's a machine oiled by the children, the blood of children. Yeah. It's amazing that is now something that's common knowledge. And I don't know, is it common knowledge? If anybody works with majority of normies, I'll give you my example. My example is the squash club, primarily boomers. But even the young guys that work there, they go there, they work, they're there, they work 9 to 5 or whatever. Not really a lot of talk of it. And their little Plato's wall, their newspapers and shit that they read every day. Like John Travolta, like where's the stories about the Epstein? Where is it? It's nowhere. So it's not really cutting through. Maybe it's just getting heavy on our side because we've known it for so long. So it's like it's really no surprise. It kind of is water off a duck's back for us because we've known about it for so long. But you can see when the general consensus. Remember when my theory about Charlie Kirk and the 23.6% adoption. I run that scenario into everything, right? So like if the general population of normies, if adoption and in this case knowledge of Epstein goes above 23.6, it takes on like that hurricane will happen, right? So anything under 23.6 can be mitigated, right? But once it hits there, so I don't think we're at 23.6, but I think we're getting there. And so this is where they start throwing things of the weapons of mass distraction. It's like, okay, what is this one? All right, they found out about Epstein. Send in the aliens, just like clockwork. Send in the aliens, and here they come. And maybe, here's the hard truth. If people burn down Minneapolis for George Floyd, if there was more outrage with Sydney Sweeney and her jeans commercial, I don't know if we'll hit the 23.6% fib on the knowledge of Epstein. And now I'm going to caveat that it's not only knowledge, it's caring. Right? It sounds weird. Like, why wouldn't you care about that? The reason why I won't hit caring is because it's too hard of a red line for normies, right? They won't get there. They'll just go into denial. So maybe when they throw in the aliens, remember they threw in the aliens right around at the end of Biden, but they were hot air balloons. And holy smokes, the news cycle, there's aliens. Do they look like weather balloons? Yeah. But they're sophisticated. They want you to think they're weather balloons. But they're really from another galaxy far, far away, right? And they're just under the cloak of a weather balloon. See, they know that in order to go unnoticed, in this case it was a horrible mistake, but in order to go unnoticed, they need to blend in. So they did a bunch of research because they can research anything, these aliens, right? And they thought the best way to go unnoticed would be to cloak ourselves like a weather balloon. And that's what they did. Remember that one? Probably will get more legs than the Epstein thing. But another theory is that they are doing the washout of the structure. So when you have, like we all know this, we always talk about, this Ponzi scheme, the fiat Ponzi scheme can't last forever. It will eventually break, right? We all know that these things break. And this political apparatus of reptilian, raping, child-eating psychopaths has to come to an end, right? But it can't just put a Band-Aid on and kick 4 or 5 people out. Like they're going to be our sacrificial lambs, and then we're going to stay here. No, the thing's got to burn. And when the system burns, it's not good, right? But it has to happen. It's like cutting on a malignant tumor, although some people say that's not good either. It kind of creates it too. But we won't go there. That it has to be cut out of the system, or else the system will just return to it's like, can we eat kids again? Like, if they forgot about that, did they buy the alien thing? Yeah, okay. Bon appetit. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this video.